Last season began with a bang, seeing a first-time winner, and ended with a thrill as it came down to the final race to decide the title. Taking a page out of that book, the community has decided to start with another track similar to Monza that often sees unexpected victors. Le Mans will reward some and bite others as we get ready to watch round one of the Lotus 49 Grand Prix Legends Series. And you'll see it all live here on the Global Sim Racing channel. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth is Roush Racing driver Joey Atterbury. Behind the scenes is our director, Bobbert O'Brien, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Normally reserved for sports cars, this French circuit doesn't have to be limited in the virtual world. Let's head to our track guide to see what the 49s will be racing on. Welcome to Le Mans. When you talk about legendary circuits, this is a place that stands among the most famous in the world. Part permanent road course, part temporary street circuit, it traipses through the countryside just south of the city where it gets its namesake. Its size matches its reputation as well, clocking it at 8.5 miles, which equates to roughly 13.5 kilometers. However, when you take into account that it's split by only 33 turns, the frighteningly fast nature of this circuit becomes clear. Most of the corners have been added over the century of history it's experienced, but many have become renowned and respected. The two turns at the opposite ends of the massively long Mulsanne Straight play equally important roles. Tertre Rouge requires a great exit in order to not lose massive amounts of time, while Mulsanne Corner takes bravery and precision in order to brake as late as possible and keep opponents from passing you on the way in. There's also hair-raising moments like the tricky entry to Indianapolis, or the close walls along the bridge section in the Porsche curves. To win here, drivers will need a very low downforce setup, a good sense of strategy, and heaps of bravery. The 24 Hours of Le Mans is the crown jewel of endurance racing, which many drivers dream of someday winning and many fans flock to witness in person. Once you've driven the track here on iRacing, it's easy to see why. Against what we typically see here in the 49s, we've got the modern version of Le Mans here today.
We are racing with those pesky chicanes down that Mulsanne straightaway, but one giant racetrack here in Le Mans. 33 turns, just under 8.5 miles, or just over 13.5 kilometers, depending on how you look at it. And a couple of key areas here. Kicks off immediately with the Dunlop chicane. Easy to get caught off with your braking point going into really one of the most important corners on the entire lap. You also get through Tertre Rouge out there, which leads out onto that Mulsanne straightaway. I did mention it's not quite as long as the old historic version. We are running the chicanes and a few more areas. Mulsanne corner, you got to make your brake marker on point there. Otherwise, you're going to fly off into the gravel. Same thing with the Indianapolis and Arnage complex. And then after that, I would say the last quarter of the racetrack really takes on a different shape with a lot more flowing turns through the Porsche curves, through the Corvette curves, and through the final Ford chicanes. Definitely a much more flowing back half of the track than the front half.
Yeah, it requires quite a technical hand, that portion of it. Let's take a look, though, at how things wound up last season. Toko Hisada wound up winning over Xavier Sanchez in the end with that last race, deciding it. And then, of course, you've got Nieva back there, who was very close to finishing second in the championship, too. So watch out for Nieva. He's been very, very consistent. I have a feeling more wins will be coming his way in time. Salgado was a bit of a quiet fourth, but only a single point ahead of David Rossi in the end. And Gary Ho was also tight behind them, all battling for that fourth position. Nacho Gaspar came in and won a few races, but he didn't compete for the whole season. We'll see if we see some more of him this time around in the end. And Jason Clapper, the other big story, coming from starting in the back every race and finishing in the top 10 in the points. What about the F2 championship here?
The only difference between the F1 and the F2 driver standing is that I rating. Steve Morris led and won that F2 championship last season. Nice, healthy, commanding victory. 41 points over Bjorn Ackerman. Jonathan Jordan there in third place. Kurt Clapper, Jan Steffen. It was actually pretty equidistant throughout the entire top 10 here. Curious, Joe. See what this season, it's a new day, a new race, a new time to put a new foot forward here.
Well, as far as the countries go for the Cup of Nations, though, putting a new foot forward, there's a lot of other countries that are going to have to start to step up to Spain because they basically dominated last time out over Japan because Togo was one of the few Japanese drivers that was racing at pretty much every round. Japan wound up second, just ahead of the United States, who grabbed third. The UK, who tends to be one of those countries in this car that sees a lot of participation, did wind up in fourth, but usually they're fighting for the top spot, so they're going to have to rebound. And Australia rounds out your top five in that Cup of Nations battle. We'll see how that goes here today. And Joey, for today's details, a lot fewer laps than we're used to.
Yeah, it looks a little silly on the graphic, but we've mentioned we're kicking off the brand new season here, round 1 of 12, and only 9 laps at Le Mans. Even then, our qualifying guys, they haven't even put a lap time in yet, so it's going to be a while before they get around this place. As always, open setups here in these Lotus 49 cars, no spare car, so be careful not to come into contact with anybody or maybe come into contact with one of those pesky walls out there. Drive-through penalty at 17x, disqualification at 25x. There are a few places to run off the track here, Joe, but as always, we talk about you got to keep your box away from somebody else's box. Don't let those wheels tangle.
We've got some interesting stories on the track while we wait for them to set some qualifying times, too. Nacho Gaspar is here today, so he is pretty much always a threat for the victory whenever he shows up. Now, the other one is Topi Cortiniemi is here. Now, his story is a bit unique because he's going to try for the Triple Crown. This is very difficult to do. In fact, I'm trying to think. I think we've only had 1 or 2 drivers ever take this. A win in the Lotus 49s, Lotus 79s, and the Camel GT series, all in a single weekend on the broadcast races. So Topi's going to try for that. And if he doesn't win here, well, the path obviously ends right there, and that's it for him. But we'll see if he can manage to take that and carry on. But I'm sure he'll still race at the other races, even if he doesn't take the victory, as we watch that number 2 bring it down into Mulsanne hairpin. So he's just about done with this lap.
I think, coming out of the Mulsanne corner there is Topi Cortiniemi. And look, there's 3 minutes left here in qualifying. I'm seeing we've put down about 18 times so far, but we've got 26 drivers that are entered here in this race. So if you didn't get that first lap time in, you better bank it on that second one.
Exactly. And, well, most of them, I think, might have trouble getting the second one in here if they haven't done that first one, because it does take so long. It's almost 4 minutes, and considering you don't have an outlap, but you do have to get warmed up just outside of the Porsche curves. You start on the exit there, so it's extremely tight. You have to get there within 13 seconds to start the lap to be able to get both of them in time. Cortiniemi with that first lap, unfortunately deleted, so let's hope that he got there quick enough. Right now, Javier Chavez. Now, that's our highest qualifier, but I'm not as familiar with that name, and I'm not sure if we've seen him before. I'll try and see if I can dig up some stats on him, but his Sada is to his outside, and then Gaspar currently sits in third.
I don't have any hard facts on Javier other than he's got a pretty intense iRating over here, nearly 5,500, and you compare that to the rest of the field. I mean, this is the strength of field race. This is the best of the best in these Lotus 49 machines. So I guess I should say I shouldn't be too surprised as we watch Topi Cortiniemi go through these final Ford chicanes here, banking on this lap. Let's see what he puts down. Right now, pole is a 347.159, and he takes that. However, not counted. Oh, no, there it goes. Straight to the top. I'm sorry, Joe.
Wow. And in fact, it's a huge gap between the top 2 and everybody else, as Togo Hisada is a full second off the pole time. So it looks like he was able to sneak that second lap in just in time. I think the only other driver that needs one is Neil Kemp. He's not going to be able to get there in time. I don't believe it is going to be a little bit too far back for the Californian with less than a minute to go. So as we wait for him to get closer, I believe our grid is set for this one, and it is a split race. We should mention that. This is top split. Topi Cortiniemi is on the pole position as Javier Chavez will start from second, and Togo Hisada, our current reigning champion, will begin from P3. Nacho Gaspar will be to his outside as Jorge Nieva will be fifth, and then Wara Zamaloa will be in the sixth position. You've got Seb Tixier starting at seventh, Kyle Ridley in at P8, and John Olson in ninth. Carl Moore rounds out your top 10.
In 11th place, we have Ryan Walker. Following him is going to be Marco Antonio Lopez Salgado. Then in the 13th place, we have Gary Quellen, followed by Gary Ho sharing row number 7. Robert Plumley in 15th. Matthew Keane here in 16th spot. Yanni Lehman in 17th. Matthew Maudsley in 18th position. And then in 19th, we have Doug Cloud and Emerson Gowden going to be sharing that row with him.
From there, last driver to set a time was Drazen Carr in 21st. Laust Olsen, Neil Kemp, Jason Clapper, Steve Morris, and Jeff Saunders round out the field starting from the back, gridded according to iRating. And we just about have everybody gridded up, but it goes all the way back into the chicane. Imagine if we had all 51 drivers here, though. It would have been very far into there. It's a little warm on the track surface, but not too bad. Probably ideal, honestly, for getting things up to temperature without being too slick and offering them some grip here, Joey. This is going to be interesting with the way the slipstream will keep everybody together.
It will be. It's known to really keep the field compact here at Le Mans. These cars don't necessarily have the drafting power that some of the newer cars do with the big wings and whatnot. However, it still comes into effect here, and you have to stay connected. Joe, I'm almost happy we split here because they would have lined up to all the way to the Porsche curves if we didn't.
Yeah, it would have been a huge field. There you can see the back of them there, and that is already a few of them having to kind of make a bit of an awkward start, but it's at the very back. I'm pretty sure they're going to be able to catch up. I think we're just waiting on Gary Quellen, and there it is. It looks like he is out on the track. So the engines start to rev now as the lights come up for the first round of Season 4. And the green flag is out off the line. Looks like it's a pretty decent start for both Chavez and Cortiniemi up there at the front. They pull away pretty well compared to the others, but look at the three wide racing coming in behind them, battling for third position. They're going to have to get this sorted out for the Dunlop chicane where things are going to tighten up greatly.
And it looks like, for the most part, the top 10 is able to make their way through. I'm seeing no spins or anything, maybe a little bit of trouble further in the back of the pack, but it's Topi Cortiniemi. Now I'm seeing cars spin through the gravel, followed by Javier Chavez, and big problems. I believe that's Laust Olsen involved.
Kyle Ridley as well, unfortunately. Ryan Walker got caught up in that one. So definitely a few faster drivers that unfortunately have seen their race ended early. Steve Morris looks like he maybe got some damage. Let's watch from on board Laust Olsen.
This is coming out of that Dunlop chicane. Start to come down the hill. It's already unfolded right in front of him. Oh,
no place to go.
He tried to avoid, and then, the second drop kick just put him on the lid.
Really unfortunate to see, and Laust even said that he had messed up his qualifying, so he probably wouldn't have been back there if he had gotten a lap that counted, unfortunately. Meanwhile, and we've had another incident in Daytona. I think Carl Moore and I believe Doug Cloud involved in that one, so it's been a bit of a messy first lap, unfortunately.
It can happen here at Le Mans. You know, you're trying to stay as far forward in that track position as possible to take advantage of the draft as much as you can. And sometimes it just catches you out. Just like we say, Zamola, he's having problems in that second Mulsanne chicane himself.
Yeah, he had to cut through. So he's now got a slowdown penalty, which is really painful in this first lap, especially at this track. I also see Matthew Keane with a black flag, so he must have gotten a slowdown and not served it well enough. And Gary Quellen off to the side for some reason as we're already into the Mulsanne chicane and flying down towards Golf Course and Indianapolis here, chasing the leader, Topi Cortiniemi.
one of the final big straightaways here on this French circuit. I'm looking at the speeds approaching 200 miles an hour as they are drafting side by side. Nacho Gaspar now says he wants to lead into Indianapolis.
So watching Topi Cortiniemi here and his onboard, he falls back down into second. Gaspar up to the lead. Some heavy hitters here. Chavez looks to be one to join their ranks, and Togo Hisada, obviously two-time champion, current reigning champion as well in amongst them, and Nieva hoping maybe he can get another one of those wins. Remember what I mentioned, he was the one that won at Monza last round, which is a track that races similar to this.
Really interesting to see the dynamic out of the front three, because it looks like Topi and Nacho, they're really kind of swapping back and forth on this draft lead, while Javier Chavez is kind of sitting back there in the third place, but that has allowed Togo Hisada to stay in touch as well as Nieva. It's really a five-car train for the lead.
Maybe trying to play it cool, wait for this to all unfold before he tries to make an attack. Believe it or not, you can feel the slipstream from as far as 2 seconds back down the Mulsanne in these cars. Obviously, the chicanes will break it up somewhat, but expect them to be able to regain some ground, even from way far behind as they switch back and forth through the Ford chicanes. Gaspar with another run here, but it looks like Topi's going to defend.
Nacho was able to get the power down really well out of that final turn, the final Ford chicane, and through the Dunlop curve here into the Dunlop chicane. Got to make your brake marker on point. You're right. Topi Cortiniemi going defensive, but Gaspar around the outside.
Chavez had a chance to try and get involved, but he lifted, so I think you're right. I think he's just trying to wait and sit behind and let those two battle it out. They could tangle with all this back and forth if they're not careful. So he could have a great opportunity to just pick it up easily and have fewer cars to fight with. Let's see who gets the launch coming out of Tertre Rouge.
Riding on board with Togo Hisada in the fourth place position, trying to maximize the use of that draft. And this is kind of a difficult position to be in, Joe, because you're looking down at your TAC and your speedometer and you're saying, holy smokes, I'm going as fast as ever, but look at these three wide in front of him. He's still got to catch them.
200 plus miles an hour, and then they have to slam on the brakes to try and make their way into Daytona. Oh, but Chavez, maybe he does want to fight for this. He is now going for the lead, and he gets through the first chicane better than the rest, but will it swap right back around on him?
It actually really cost Topi Cortiniemi, and look at Togo Hisada. He was the one looking three wide now, and once again, three wide down the Mulsanne chicane, or down the Mulsanne straightaway for the lead between Nacho Gaspar, Topi Cortiniemi, and Javier Chavez.
They're all going to get sorted out, and you can tell that we've got some serious iRating in here as they all kind of know the deal, so they get single file very quickly when we hit that brake marker. They are actually, I think, being caught by six as well. Tixier and Olsen have tracked them down. Look at that.
I've been watching that pair, Joe. They were just on the cusp of that draft range going out onto the Mulsanne straightaway this time. And with this battling up here, you're right. We're up to about a 7-car pack for the lead.
That's even worse news for our leaders then, because this is all 7 of them that are basically in the hunt for the victory, although that was a poor exit off of the Mulsanne hairpin for those two. Does look like maybe Seb Tixier had some sort of, he's got a slowdown penalty, so he has to fall back. So there goes the drafting partner that Olsen had. Let's hope he can keep with it on his own as they now approach the braking into Indianapolis. Even more difficult in these cars without the downforce.
Make sure not to lock anything up. Very careful dance on that brake pedal. Now down into one of the slower corners on the racetrack, Arnage, pretty much a right-hand 90-degree turn. Put the power down for another, I should say, short straightaway, but you compare it to the rest of the world, it's still pretty long.
Oh, yeah. This is about the length of most back straightaways that you have on a typical track here. So at one point I heard the name of this portion of the track, but it's long since been forgotten by me, as we've got a problem. Looks like Janne Lehman was in a bit of an issue with Gary Ho. And I think that was out of Arnage. That's a typical place to trip over one another. It's such a tight, slow corner.
Yeah, you called it right. Just two cars kind of tripping over each other, and it was Gary Ho. We're going to get a GSRC replay, and what happened is Gary Ho spins by himself right in front, coming out of Arnage, and then pretty much just blocks the track. Unfortunately, the cars behind didn't really have anywhere to go here, Joe.
And the Club Asia driver is going to look good down into the braking from behind the trees there into Indianapolis. Now, watch as he approaches towards Arnage. Let's see how it all unfolds. Wow, snapped so early on him, almost immediately. And he kind of winds up halfway on the racing line. And under braking, there's little you can do to change direction, as evidenced by that incident.
It can be tough, and I know a lot of the drivers like to kind of cheat that left side curb, and you saw the car snap. It might have just been unsettled from the curb going onto the pavement, and the car wasn't happy.
Wow.
Did you see Chavez
Yes,
right
I
there
did.
flirting with the track limit?
He's very lucky clipping the grass like that in the Forest S's. That is a place where you can often lose the car so quickly. But looks like he got away with it for now. They're spreading apart a little bit more. And it does look like everybody's still within range of one another. But it does seem like that top group is trying to utilize the first part of the lap to try and break away a little.
Big lockup from that 4 car. I think he was just kind of trying to make up a little bit of time from that mistake going out onto the Mulsanne straightaway. Really allows Togo Hisada to now close up into the mirror. This is our leader, Topi Kortanyami. I love all of these shots. You don't get the cool round mirrors, all the cool fun stuff in these new cars like you do in the old 49s.
There you go. Let's make a petition for someone to make the old bell mirrors on their their current cars.
I want the big wide view mirror in the GT cars up top.
Yes, there you go. And as we head out of the chicane, once again, the second chicane on the Mulsanne, then we work our way towards the Mulsanne hairpin. A little bit less crazy trying to break into there with the chicane version of it, but in these Lotus 49s, you are still braking so early into that little kink that leads normally to the side of the roundabout, but here is the racetrack, and working their way through there, everybody looked nice and tidy in the top group.
And while we have Topi on the screen here, I want to kind of point out something nerdy here. Nacho Gaspar, gonna make a move for the lead, but look at how calm and collected Topi is. Every single upshift, every downshift, he's not slamming that shifter. He's making sure he's providing enough room for everybody, but he is totally calm, focused behind the wheel.
He's going to carry on this battle, though, side by side down into Indianapolis with Chavez. And it looks like Javier is going to be able to take that P2 anyways. Up at the front, it is currently Gaspar leading the way. Once again, it seems as though Club Iberia and a lot of Spanish drivers are taking to this old classic car and really showing everybody how it's done.
I think it's a matter of, hey, if your buddies are going to play over there and they're having a good time collecting some wins, why not go see what it's like yourself?
Absolutely. So 3 out of our top 5 are all Spanish drivers right now, if it tells you anything. As we head into the Porsche curves once again, we're on lap 3 out of 9. So we're working our way steadily through the lap count here at Le Mans. Remember, close to 4 minutes to circulate around here. They're fast in a straight line, but they just don't have the cornering speed in the parts where they have to slow down this place.
So, Joe, I want to ask you a question. We're looking at Togo Hisada right here in the 4th place position, and we just talked about he was the champion. What is this like coming into round number 1? It's a brand new season, and all of a sudden, you're the one chasing not 1 car, but 3 cars in front of you.
Well, from what we talked to Togo, it sounded like he maybe will feel a little bit more relaxed than before because he's already got his 2nd championship. And I think he said he might take a little bit of a break from trying to fight for another one, kind of do what Seb Tixier did and just, let's just do this for fun. Let's not stress and maybe not have to show up for every single round. We'll see if he does or if he tries to go for championship number 3 or not. But I get the sense that he is indeed just kind of, feeling a weight off of his shoulders.
And if that is the case, I like this approach that he's taking specifically in this race right now because He's hanging on the back of this top 3 train, and how many times have we said racing for 3 wide for the lead? But Togo Hisada is not up in that battle. He is just kind of hanging out at the tail end of the train, waiting to pick up any pieces or waiting for that last lap to finally show his card.
Absolutely. And into the braking we go for Daytona. Chavez going to slide into second. We've lost a number of cars. Neil Kemp, Gary Quellen, Ryan Walker, Jana Lehman are all officially retired from the race. Laust Olsen, Gary Ho, Carl Moore, and Kyle Ridley have been taking extensive repairs. Not sure that we'll see them back out, but it looks like they're going to try and hope that maybe the car will be able to come back out and maybe gain a little bit of safety rating, pick up a spot or two for other drivers falling to attrition, which seems to be relatively high today.
It can kind of bite you with these open wheel cars if you're not too careful. I think that things have calmed down a little bit, Joe, and most of the attrition that we see, most of the chaos is definitely in that first lap, if not the first lap and a half. Combine that with a circuit like Le Mans with a lot of drafting, 3 wide, 4 wide potentials. I shouldn't say that I'm not too surprised.
Oof, yet more side-by-side, battling under braking. Topi going to be able to beat out the likes of Gaspar and Hisada down into the hairpin, holding onto the back. Nieva's just barely within it, but they've dropped John Olsen, and they've definitely lost Seb Tixier. Olsen and Tixier look like they are maybe getting back together here soon, as Seb's within about a second and a half of him. So it's cut down to 5 once more. And they're just not willing to settle down and all just run in line. They're still just continually changing hands every single straightaway.
Well, because of that, you mentioned Jorge Nieva. He was kind of lagging on the back. Well, he has officially caught him. And if they keep battling like this, I think that John Olsen and Seb Tixier will kind of get back to the front here. But your foreshadowing was right. When Seb Tixier got that slowdown penalty, it really lost the drafting partner, and those two just totally fell off the train.
The big question mark for me here is Chavez, not just for the fact as we go, again, side by side between Gaspar and Cortiniemi into the Porsche curves, not just because I can't seem to dig up any sort of stats on him, but wondering if he knows how this is going to work when it comes down to the end, Joey, because other guys like Hisada, Cortiniemi, Nieva, they've all raced this track in this car plenty of times. They know the deal of you just have to wait for the end of it. Does Chavez know where he needs to position the car to treat it like, a super speedway on the oval side?
I think so, because you don't get up here into this iRating and into the speed just being a complete newbie when it comes to racing. So Javier Chavez, even though we might not know a lot about him, I feel like he's got a good grip on things out there. He's been leading the race for how many laps? He's been swapping the lead. So I do feel like he knows what's going on, but you're right. We're about to see if he knows when to make the right move at the right time here.
And he's the first to break under the 48s with a 3:47.7 that last lap. Things getting a little tight in places as we get closer to the end, wondering if maybe a few drivers getting a little antsy there in the top group, pushing things that little bit harder as we close in on the end. And I'm not sure if we need to go to it, but for some reason Maudsley was losing a lot of spots. I wonder if he blew the final chicane or something there.
Out on to Mulsanne. Togo Hisada a little bit further back this time. The draft should reel him back in, but it really is all Nacho Gaspar with Topi Cortiniemi just right on the tail. They're going to go side by side. I'm not surprised. This has just been happening lap after lap. Topi should take the inside line going into the first chicane, but no, Nacho Gaspar battles back. So maybe things are starting to heat up a little bit.
Also worth noting that Neil Kemp and Laust Olsen are back on the track. They're 3 laps down and well apart from one another. So they'll probably try and pick up some spots, as I mentioned. It's basically them hoping that somebody's going to wreck, or that for Laust's case, Neil Kemp maybe has too much damage in a straight line in comparison, and he can catch him back up a number of seconds before this is over. A little bit more orderly down into the braking for the second chicane this time for this group. Still all 5 together. They haven't lost any more of them. Tixier and Olsen have changed hands, as well as Seb has moved up to 6th.
It has been such a good battle up here. Nacho Gaspar swinging out drivers left as we head down into Mulsanne corner. Although it's still Javier, still latest on the brakes, but let's see who gets the power down coming out. And once again, it's just kind of pick your spot in line, pick your draft battle, and see when you can make the move.
Absolutely. So Topi's bright orange helmet, hard to miss here. Oh, you can see how much these cars dance at these speeds. They are just gliding over the surface of the track. And as he falls in line behind the leader, he's also going to brake a little bit early. He doesn't see need to try and push the issue coming down into Indianapolis. Look at them swapping back and forth. Real trust between them.
Yeah, but Nacho ran really wide on the exit of Indianapolis. That's going to provide an opportunity. Here we go. Topi Courtiniemi puts the power down coming out of Arnage. This is the second time we've seen somebody pull up alongside going into the Porsche curves.
The intensity definitely is raising here in this front group. We're seeing a 2x2 now, a couple rows of drivers racing side by side, heading into the Porsche curve. Chavez and Hisada not willing to give way amongst each other, and it looks like Hisada will come out the worst of them as he flies into the wall. Can the car keep going? He's in a bad place. He's trying to back out of it and get it on the road. Now he's able to get rolling. Does look like at least it's tracking without crabbing too bad, but will he be able to keep the pace up?
I feel for Togo Hisada, our prior champion. I think it was actually a little bit of ghost contact as well that helped him into the wall. As we check out Doug Cloud. Right now he's holding off Matthew Maudsley right behind him, and Jeff Saunders as well as Emerson Gowden.
Remember, Maudsley had some sort of slowdown penalty that he had to serve at some point, so he's a little out of position, lost a lot of spots, and is maybe going to try and see if he could get to the front of this group and start leaving them behind. There's our onboard cam with Doug Cloud. And hey, your favorite topic here, Joey, he's got a hacker shirt on.
He does have a hacker shirt. That looks a little bit more like the Matrix, though. A little bit more of a true hacker. You know, when I think of a hacker, Joe, what was Swordfish, Hugh Jackman? That was a good one.
You know, I've never seen that movie, but I've seen some of the memes that definitely came out of that, unfortunately. But as Doug continues to try and fight for this 11th spot, he leads the way in this pack. And nobody going to try and attack him down into the braking of the Dunlop chicane. Sad news for Togo fans. He has had to take it into pit lane to get repairs. He had a meatball flag, so he has to stop.
I'm curious to watch this battle here down the Mulsanne straightaway for the first time. I've been keeping my eye on it here, Joe, and they've been having some pretty big blocking moves. So I'm curious, does Matthew Maudsley go up there and push the issue down into the first chicane here?
You know, one of the few times I have raced this, because I kind of stepped aside Lotus 49s by the time this track was released. The one time I did race here, I had a driver kind of move and try to block me on this straightaway as well. And I was a little bit annoyed by that. And he said he didn't want to go side by side through the Mulsanne kink since it was without the chicanes. These two, not any sort of qualms with that. And as we go through the first chicane, does look like Doug Cloud is going to once again be able to stay ahead of him. He's not willing to give this one up.
Yeah, and Maudsley got the power down really well here. And the other thing, look at the road, the crown on the road. It's a little bit higher in the center and falls off on either side. We've mentioned these cars don't make very much downforce. If anything, they make upforce. And when you do these crazy emergency lane change maneuvers, it always makes me gasp for air if they're going to catch the car.
Yeah, you just have to be so careful with the speeds that they run at down through the second chicane, just fighting for grip. You can see them wiggle as they put the throttle down, all four of them out in a line, and now they fan out.
Here we go. Maudsley trying to get around Doug Cloud. Doug Cloud is the red car on driver's right-hand side. He's going to have the inside line going into Mulsanne corner, and just like every chicane, he is crazy late on the brakes.
And yet they all make it through once again. Great racing between this group, but the intensity makes me wonder at what point will we see someone also fall by the wayside amongst them like we saw with Hisada. It's been narrowing down steadily in the front group. And the more they race together, the higher the chances become that something could go wrong.
I don't know if you saw that big old wiggle out of Matthew Maudsley as he took a peek down to the inside of Doug Cloud, but it doesn't matter if you're battling like Topi Cortignami, Nacho Gaspar, Javier Chavez, or just like Emerson Gowden and Doug Cloud in the back here, you are smiling and having a good time.
Oh, yeah. I bet you everybody here is enjoying this. This style of racing, so unique here on the roadside. There's a few tracks that provide enough of a straightaway like this, but not as common, that is for sure, especially in cars this high-powered, as Gowden continues to chase behind this quartet. We are down now to 3 laps to go for our drivers. It is towards the end of this event, and we still have 4 that are in the hunt for the win. Oh, but it was a bad run for Cortignami just now up at the lead. He went deep down into the first chicane, so that's the first time we've really seen cracks out of the number 2.
Ooh, and he actually got checked up just a little bit. He was trying to just stay right on the gearbox of our leader, and actually dealing with a little bit of a blinking issue as well as our number 2 second-place driver, Topi Cortignami. He's got to not only battle other cars, but maybe even his internet connection.
Maybe some polar bears biting on the Finnish cable, unfortunately, so he'll have to get out and shoo them away as they, once again, all try and fan out 3 wide coming down to the braking. There's one of our damaged cars going to get lapped soon. That is Jana Lehman. And he is well off the pace, so hopefully he should be able to pull aside and let everyone through.
They are battling still side by side through the exit of the first Mulsanne chicane. We're looking backwards from that car of Yanni Lehman. You can't really see too much, but it is a 3-wide shark coming at you, and even Jorge Nieva could have made it 4 wide, but Joe, this is going to be a braking duel. This is as even as it gets.
Oh, my goodness. Someone's going to have to give way here. I don't think they can go in there 3 wide. In fact, they're going to go in single file pretty much. So nicely done. All just sort of almost looked like a coordinated dance between them, although coming off the corner, a struggle for Nacho Gaspar there to get the throttle down. That almost caused a problem for Chavez.
I actually think that Nacho Gaspar and Javier Chavez came into contact there, Joe, and if they didn't, it was incredibly close on that exit.
We've already seen the net code cost at least 1 wreck there, as you mentioned, with Togo Hisada winding up in the wall through bridge. But we have another incident here soon in these last couple laps that they have, because it's coming down to the 2 to go signal here pretty soon as we check a little farther back. And this is Jeff Saunders battling with Gaudin. And there's some damage on a couple of the noses. Did they have an issue?
Well, if you notice, there's no more Doug Cloud in this battle.
Uh-oh.
So I wonder if something happened here. Doug Cloud was that red car that we were watching, and here's the replay. Yeah, just so unfortunate. Actually, heavy contact with the 33, I believe, as well. Or was that the 23 there? Yeah, Matthew Maudsley.
Wow. I'm kind of impressed that all the others managed to get away and still stay together here. So here is Cloud in the number 21. Let's get another angle on it. Oh, and once again, entry into the braking seems to be the difficult part for these cars.
You're probably grabbing downshifts as well as balancing your brake pedal pressure, and it can get away from you pretty easy in these sweeping corners. Remember, it's all set up for the straightaways. It's not that stable in these long sweeping corners.
You know, a thought occurred to me as we were covering that as well, because I saw another big blink from Topi Cortignami. We already mentioned that we've had 1 car hit to the side by netcode. If Topi's having problems, that makes it even more dangerous every time they go side by side. If he has a blink, things could go awry quickly. And speak of the devil, he takes himself out as he breaks too deep into the Ford chicane. Can't get it going in time to stay with him. Now he's going to be fighting for best of the rest with Tixier and Olsen.
So unfortunate, and it almost looked like an identical spin to what Doug Cloud just did, but in a different part of the racetrack. Going in, he was standing on the brakes and maybe just a little bit too much brake pedal pressure, and around came the back, Joe.
Unless something dramatic happens, I don't think we're going to see Topi Cortiniemi get the Triple Crown this weekend, which is a real shame because definitely one of the few drivers that has both the chops and the experience in all three series to be able to try such a thing. But not today, unfortunately, as he will now sit in fifth, battling for fourth with Tixier. As we check back in with Maudsley once again. Maudsley definitely had plenty of action. He's fallen backwards. He's been able to avoid big wrecks. Now he's leading a trio of cars.
I think what's most impressive about it, we watched that wreck with him and Doug Cloud. Remember, he was way off the track. All of a sudden, he's back in front of Jeff Saunders and Emerson Gowden. So, yeah, tip of the cap to the 23 driver.
2 laps to go now for these drivers out of the 9 laps. So the leaders already on the Mulsanne straight probably have somewhere in the range of about 6 minutes to go now left in this race. Watching that 23 coming out of Tertre Rouge, you could see how much they were using that as we've got Jorge Nieva now suddenly leading this race. Has he decided now is go time?
No, I wasn't going to say anything, Joe, but last lap, Jorge Nieva and company took it 3 wide into Indianapolis, and I think Jorge has finally said, okay, I've burned enough fuel off of this thing. It's time for me to go.
Well, and a lot fewer cars around, too. Now he can show his hand, I think, and not have to worry as much. So he's put himself into the lead, and he is going to lead, but you have to wonder, Nacho and Javier, are they intentionally letting him have the lead? Because I didn't see either of them attack into the hairpin.
No, definitely not. And into that Mulsanne corner there, I felt that Jorge actually took a pretty conservative brake marker. And here we go. Are we going to get 3 wide? Javier was trying to sneak it up into the middle, but it's Nacho Gaspar that's leading down into Indianapolis, the sweeping right-hander. But here comes Javier Chavez with a late lunge, not going to make the pass, and Nieva now comes back at him.
Great on the brakes, but very close between himself and Chavez. They don't make contact, but they are really fighting close. I think the one reason they can fight this close, though, all 3 are our Spanish drivers left over.
You think they're yelling at each other on the mic right now?
I know a few Spanish curse words, but I can't say them on here. Right now, Nacho Gaspar is currently leading the way over Chavez and Nieva. And they've broken away by about 4.5 seconds over Topi Cortiniemi. A little bit too far for him to try and run them down in a single lap, unless they really go slow on this final lap and fight side by side too much. They could gain it, but it'll take something really dramatic, I think, here for him to have a part in this fight. Here we go, coming up to the white flag here soon for these top 3, and we still don't know who's going to win it.
Oh, Javier had a huge run out of that Corvette curve there and didn't really have anywhere to go since Nacho Gaspar is pretty much right there in front of him as they do take that white flag from Barney. 1 more lap to go.
Nieva's got to slow down. Nieva has lost touch. He's served it now, but it's 3 seconds, and it looks like he is going to be fighting with Cortiniemi, Tixier, and Olsen. So now it's down to 2 here on the final lap. It is all whittled down to this, from 7 fighters to just a pair.
Ooh, and crucially, Javier Chavez gets wheel spin coming out of that Dunlop chicane. Now, he still is in plenty range to catch that draft, but that was a first little mistake I've seen out of the number 4.
Chavez versus Gaspar. Will we see more of that number 4 machine this season? And if so, is he going to start it off with a victory? Nacho, can he come in once again and take another win himself? I have to check and see how many he's racked up at this point, actually, because I know that he's taken a few as time has gone by. But as they fly down the Mulsanne straight, they're once again going to go side by side. And look at that car under braking. He is trying to maximize all the way off to the edge of the track as much as he can.
Let's see what Nacho Gaspar decides to do right here. He got a nice run coming out of that first chicane. Does he decide to try to pass him, or who is going to play the chess game of, you know what, I'm going to sit in the toe for when I actually want to make my move?
3 wins to the name of Gaspar, no wins to the name of Chavez. Can he get that maiden victory in this series as he now sits in the lead ahead of Gaspar, who is very experienced in this car in comparison to Javier? Could he manage to snipe him at the very end? They're coming up to the Mulsanne hairpin. We've often heard from drivers that the run from the hairpin down to Indianapolis is the one that will decide the race.
Well, and Joe, these past 2 straightaways, Nacho Gaspar, that green and black car, he is lifted off of the throttle. He wanted to stay in second place, and here is that crucial straightaway. And look at this, Chavez got an excellent run out.
Ooh, maybe Nacho tried to get too tricky for his own good here. Will he actually be able to catch him up and pass him as they start to gain speed? It is already at 190 miles an hour, 195 miles an hour now, 200, and they're going side by side. He's looking for the inside under braking down at Indianapolis. Will this be the move that decides the race? Oh, they make a little bit of contact, and Chavez is shoved out to the wall.
And that's important because right behind Chavez, here comes Jorge Nieva as well as Topi Cortinaimi. So maybe Nacho Gaspar is going to get away with the win, but it's going to be settled for second between a race.
Wow, that is not the development that I expected here, that it'll suddenly open up for the farther down positions as Gaspar is going to be able to run away with it as long as he's nice and smooth. 2 seconds ahead of everybody else as he enters the Porsche curves. He's just about home free.
Yeah, he's just got to basically make no mistakes and then crucially don't get that slowdown. And I think I saw Javier Chavez brush the wall there in the Porsche curves as well. He's got to be careful, no more mistakes, otherwise he's going to lose a podium.
Yeah, he kicked up a lot of smoke there, so hopefully he is okay. Does look like he's still in second place, so I think he'll be able to pull away with it as Nacho Gaspar gonna make it win number 4 here, coming into the Ford chicane. He is quickly becoming one of the major players here in this series, and he gets another victory today in France.
Oh, and Topi Cortinaimi and Jorge Nieva almost wrecked in the final Ford chicanes, but it is Javier Chavez in that second place, Jorge Nieva completing your podium.
Sadly for Topi, didn't even make it onto the podium in his first run at the Triple Crown. But Nieva with an excellent third in spite of some troubles there at the end. Seb Tixier in 6th behind him as more drivers now coming in and battling. This is Robert Plumley, with the number 22 in his car, about to finish 8th.
Did a fantastic job, up 7 positions. I noticed Jason Clapper up 14 as well. And this is that battle. Matthew Maudsley looks like he's going to hang on. Emerson Gowden is going to move up to 12th. And Jeff Saunders, trying to make a move in the last Ford chicane, but just really nowhere to go there.
Yep, not going to have the gold touch, Gowden. Despite that paint job, he'll have to settle for 12th behind Maudsley. What a recovery there for that number 23 car in the end. Of the drivers who did have problems to get back out there and try and finish, it looks like Ho, Kemp, and Olsen are out there. Moore and Ridley did eventually get out onto the track as well. We're going to take a quick break, though. We'll come back with the official results as well as driver interviews, so stick around. Welcome back to Le Mans. We got the exciting race that we expected, but maybe not in the way that we expected. Nacho Gaspar took the win about a second and a half over Chavez in the end. We've seen closer than that, but it certainly came down to an intense fight on that last lap. Nieva rounded out the podium over Topi Kortsiniemi, who seemed a little upset with his mistakes after that race. John Olsen was fifth, and then Seb Tixier finished sixth today. Oye Zamola was in seventh, and Robert Plumley finished in eighth. Then you've got Marco Salgado with a ninth place, and Jason Clapper doing his thing, not qualifying, climbing his way up and finishing in the top 10.
Then in 11th, we have Matthew Maudsley. 12th is Emerson Gaudin in that battle. Jeff Saunders gave Jason Clapper a run for his money, but only up 13 spots, so unfortunately does not get that big mover. Steve Morris in 14th. Doug Cloud, we were riding on board with, finishes 15th after that little spin that we went back and highlighted. Matthew Keane in 16th place. Drazen Carr is actually the last car to finish on the lead lap. Everybody else multiple laps down. Gary Ho, Yanni Lehman here in 19th, and Neil Kemp in 20th.
Yeah, a few others did manage to see the finish line. Olsen, 3 laps down. Hisada, I think, DNF'd on this one. I don't think he got back out there. Moore and Ridley did, but Quellen and Walker were out of the race early. Let's get the thoughts, though, of Laust Olsen, especially since he mentioned he was a bit frustrated that he wasn't able to get his qualifying lap in. Laust, it's never fun to have to start from the back because you missed your qualifying lap, but then it looks like it bit you even harder when the racing started.
Yeah, it wasn't the best start of the season. I had a really good qualify lap, personal best time, but the last chicane I just came in too hot and caught the chicane, so that was that. Just a moment. I just had something playing in the background. Sorry. Okay. Yeah, and then the start, a few people crashed in front of me, and I caught one of them and had 10 minutes of repair, I think. So that was pretty much that race.
Yeah, I'm sure it's frustrating. And does it give you, unfortunately, a lot more time with this being Le Mans and those long straightaways to kind of dwell on what you did wrong and what happened today, because you didn't really have anybody to race, unfortunately.
Yeah, I tried to catch Neil Kemp. He was also damaged, and I think he ended up about 4 seconds ahead of me. So I had a little battle going on, but couldn't quite catch him in the end. But I must admit, the past couple of seasons have been pretty bad for me. So I've actually getting over it pretty quickly now. It's frustrating, but I reached a point where it also, well, it is what it is, and just have to carry on and try to be better in the next race.
Yeah, good driver is able to put that stuff aside. And speaking of the next race, it's Brands Hatch. Do you consider that one of your better tracks?
Not sure it's one of my better tracks, but I like it. It's one of the better tracks or best tracks in the service. Quite technical to drive, especially in this car, and also provides good battles. So I'm looking forward to it. But I think if I'm lucky, I should be in around top 10, I hope. But that's probably also as far as I can stretch it.
Well, we'll keep an eye out for you regardless and cross our fingers that it goes a little better at the start. So commiserations, and thank you for coming and chatting with us.
Yeah, thank you for talking to me. See you.
Laust Olsen, who wound up 21st today, sadly. But I do believe Joey's caught up with Jorge Nieva, who managed third.
Yeah, was able to get a foot on the final step on that podium. Jorge, congratulations on the third today.
Thank you. I didn't expect it, but it was nice.
Now, we saw you have a little bit of a slowdown, which ultimately took you out of the battle for the lead, but we did see you go up there, fight for it, even get up front, get into that clean air. You said you weren't expecting it, but did you think that you maybe had the speed to take home the win?
Well, I think I made it because there were some guys, really fast guys, out. I think Topi and Seb and Togo should have ended in front of me, but well, when they were out, I started to think that it could be a Oliverian podium.
It was pretty cool to see all three of you guys up there battling it out for that lead. And looking at the rest of this championship, you got a good result here at Le Mans on the podium. Are we expecting a championship effort this season, or what are your plans?
No, nothing at all. I mean, the guys in front are really, really faster than me. I'll wait and try to get another podium with a bit of luck like today, and that's my current status on this series. But I enjoy it very much.
Well, Jorge, please keep coming back and racing, because actually you are one of my favorites to watch out there. I think you're incredibly aggressive and fun to watch out on the racetrack. And while I still got you, anybody you want to give a shout out to?
Well, I want to thank you guys for the broadcast, because I always watch you later, and you have a really great attitude for this. And well, the last podium I made, my daughter was her birthday that day, and I forgot to congratulate her for that. And so with a month of later, that's for her, and that's it. Thank you.
Jorge, what's her name?
Joanna. She's Joanna.
Well, happy belated birthday, Joanna.
Thank you, guys.
Well, that was Jorge Nieva coming home third today at Le Mans.
That's going to wrap up our interview. So big thank you to the Grand Prix Legends community for bringing us back for another season of coverage. And also thanks to the team today, Bovert, Joey, and Dougie. Make sure to check out our social media, our website, and our merchandise store. And don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel as well, so you don't miss a moment here on GSRC. Like we said, the next race will be at Brands Hatch Saturday, September 23rd. And that'll be at 9:30 a.m. Eastern. But be sure to check out our other broadcast, because up next today, Camel GT is going to be kicking things off at Suzuka at 1 p.m. Eastern. Until next time, though, race clean, race hard. We'll see you on the track.